Hello, this is Angela with Parker's Hausfrau. Happy Friday, everybody. I am enjoying the gorgeous afternoon sunshine and all of the beautiful maple trees turning color here in Portland, Oregon. Actually, I'm in Beaverton, which is a suburb of Portland, because my child has a homeschool co-op today. She does Model UN and mock trial and is taking a class on Supreme Court cases throughout US history. And so we drive all the way out here because that stuff is so important to her. So I have to kind of live that mom life every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon and make this trek out here. It's a long drive from the east part of Portland where we live, but it's totally worth it for her. So today I wanted to share with you all some thoughts about sewing skills and how important they are for homemaking. I actually have two packages that came in the mail. They got dropped off right as we were walking out the door. So I'm gonna open those for you in this video. Really excited. My kids were like, Mom, you're way too excited about sewing patterns, but I very rarely make a purchase of a new pattern. So when I do, it's an investment in a pattern I will use over and over. So I wanna talk about those in a minute. First off, I want to say that sewing is a skill for everybody, not just for homemakers. No matter what your gender, no matter what your vocation, sewing is such a useful skill. Even if it just means you can alter the cuff of your jacket or the hem of your pants, even if it means you can just sew on a button or mend a small tear. Those are crucially important skills for any of us seeking to live a more sustainable life. If something happens to our garments, we can fix them instead of throwing them away or having to pay a tailor to repair them. So my kids learn how to sew when they're very young, by hand first. And then as they get braver, we learn the sewing machine skills that I think are necessary for anybody who wants to alter or repair their clothes. Maybe not garment construction from start to finish. Maybe they aren't going to be quilters, but having those basic domestic skills of sewing, at least so they can repair their clothes and take care of them, I think is very important for my kids, for me, for anybody. Why is it important for homemakers to learn how to sew? So sewing is a skill that my mother had, and she actually majored in home economics in college, I believe, and minored in social work. Home economics skills are taught less and less in the public school sphere. And so I think this is a skill that may need to be picked up at home. Thankfully, there are really great tutorials and lessons all over YouTube. And if you learn better from a book or from a blog post, there are lots of written instructions as well that are super helpful. I know our library carries this comprehensive set of not only basic sewing books, but advanced tailoring books that have been really helpful for me as I expand my sewing skills. So while my mom learned these things in school, I never did. She taught me a little bit, but pretty much left me on my own to figure out the sewing machine and to figure out how to sew by hand. I got really into quilting in high school and never really into making my own clothes. I could do things like put a button on, or since I'm 6 feet tall, I often would have to add a cuff at the bottom of my pants and my skirts to make them long enough, so I knew how to do that. But I didn't really get into garment construction until I became a parent. But I think that sewing skills are so important because they help us, as I said a moment ago, they help us live a more sustainable life. They help us learn to mend and make do, repair the garments that we have. That is a way of caretaking for the objects in our wardrobe and the linens in our household. If we can repair them and keep them in good maintenance, good shape, they will last so much longer. We don't need to embrace the throwaway culture of fast fashion. We can mend and care for our garments so they last for years. In fact, a sweater I wore in a video on my other channel got a lot of attention. It's a sweater that my mom got in the 80s and is still in good repair because it is cared for. So learning to mend is a way we care for our garments and make them have a very long lifespan. I know that runs counter to the popular notion of fast fashion where you wear something once or half a dozen times and then you throw it away because there's a new trend out next month. But I actually have garments that I wear for decades because I don't give a crap about what the current fashion trends are. I think about what is sustainable and comfortable, what fits my body, and what I feel is something that I enjoy wearing. Speaking of fits your body, when you know how to sew and alter clothes, you can take thrifted items or hand-me-down items and alter them to fit you really comfortably. Not only that, but if you buy something new off the rack, it probably won't fit the vast majority of body shapes as a tailored garment would. A lot of people talk about how they got into sewing. In fact, one of my favorite YouTube channels, Kat's Costumery, which I'll link to, she talks about how she really got into sewing clothes because she is not a body shape where off the rack sizing fits her very well. That's true for me as well. As somebody who as a child was very tall and thin, most clothes didn't fit me very well. And now as a person at age 42 who is still very tall and has wide hips and is not super busty, I find that I need to alter my own clothes if I want them to have a nice tailored look to them. So once you can alter your clothes, you can get a really comfortable fit, which means you're much more likely to enjoy what you're wearing and wear it for longer. It also means, again, I can take things from the thrift store that maybe don't fit here and there, and I can alter them so that they do fit. One of my favorite things to do is buying a blazer or a jacket at the thrift store that I otherwise really like, but is inevitably too short in the sleeves. Everything is too short in the sleeves. And so I can either let the cuff out and add to the lining inside, or I can add a pretty new cuff of its own, and that way I can make something that actually fits me and is actually long enough. I also recently inherited a lot of clothes from my mother, who is quite a bit shorter than me and also a little bit wider than me, and so being able to use those clothes and cut them up and repurpose them into something that fits me or fits my children feels really honoring to her. They were articles of clothing that she really cherished and really valued, and they have another life where folks in our family can think of grandma and have part of grandma close to us, but we couldn't really just wear most of her clothes because they don't fit me and they don't fit my daughters. But if I have the sewing skills to cut them up and remake them into something else, they get a second life, and a life that is honoring to not only our values and our ethics, but also honoring to the memory of my mother. So tying into that is how sewing helps me live within my budget. This channel is all about frugality as well as eco-consciousness. And so being able to buy something thrifted and remake it, or being able to mend something that's already in my closet, or tailor it as my shape and size may go up and down, being able to let something out or take something in, really helps me live my values of frugality and stick within my budget. So that's really, really important for me. It's also important when having growing kids who don't necessarily fit off the rack sizing and who are frequently changing. My 13-year-old is growing like a weed. He is 5'11", and very soon, I think within the next month, will be taller than me. And being able to let his pants out is just like a constant chore for me. So when I make pants for him, I'm going to be making some pants for him in the next week or two. I'm going to give them a really big cuff because he's basically stretching out. So he's getting much taller and much thinner. And I want to make clothes that I can have expand the way he is expanding as he grows, so they last him a long time. So being able to sew my own clothes, being able to mend and alter things, is a way of empowering me to have artistic expression. It's something that gives me a tremendous sense of accomplishment. Not only am I sticking within my budget and honoring my frugal sensibilities, not only am I honoring my ecological sensibilities by making sure I'm keeping things out of the landfill by repairing them, it also means that I have an outlet for creative expression. And I've spoken about this on my other channel and this channel, how vital that is for everybody, including homemakers. It gives me such a sense of accomplishment to be able to make something from scratch all the way through to the finished garment and wear it, or have my kids wear it, or have it be curtains I display in the house. It just feels really, really nice to create something. Homemakers are creative individuals. We're individuals who have to multitask and undergo a huge skill set, but that in no way reduces our desire to be creative people. Human beings want to create art, and I feel like clothing is a way we can do that. So let me open up these two packages that I got and show you what came in the mail. So sometimes I make practical garments, and sometimes I make garments that are just for fun, but I'm always using thrifted and repurposed supplies. So I actually have a thrifted curtain that I'm going to be using for one of these projects. And then I have some fabric from my mother's wardrobe that I'm going to be using for one of these projects as well. So my goal is to spend basically like $0. I'm using things out of my stash. I also get almost all of my thread at the thrift store. And so that's what I'm going to be be doing with these projects. So I felt, in general, I don't buy new patterns. Patterns can be quite expensive, and of course I want the creators of those patterns to be paid a fair wage, but sometimes they're out of the budget. So I often buy patterns at the thrift store, or I often get free sources online and draft my own patterns. But I had a little bit of extra money in my budget this month, and I'm going through some difficult, hard things, and so I thought, you know, I think this is a good investment. I'll use these patterns over and over again, and I really need some new projects. It'll give me a chance to de-stress and to not focus on some of the more difficult things, a good distraction. Yet another way sewing is a good skill for homemakers. It can be a healthy distraction from stresses of real life. You're putting your energy into producing something useful and beautiful, and that can be a nice diversion from the reality of being an adult, which sometimes is really hard. So the first pattern I got is from a company called Patterns of Time. They source patterns from all kinds of small scale pattern drafters. So I'm supporting a small business by buying this pattern. So let me open it here. I should have brought a letter opener. Okay, so this pattern is a woman's bodice pattern. Now, I often wear a lot of kind of like history bounding clothes. For a lot of years, I did roller derby, and I basically just wore black spandex as an official in roller derby. And I kind of had to abandon what I consider my aesthetic, and one that I had a long time before that. I really like long skirts. I really like having kind of a history bounding, very loose history bounding overview context to my clothes. So that means I often make my own clothes, and I like kind of that like farm woman look. So this is a really nice bodice pattern. Someone in the history bounding, oh, if you don't know what history bounding is, it's where you incorporate style elements from different periods of history into your wardrobe, usually through clothes you made yourself. You can wear a fully authentic, you know, head to toe, everything, including your undergarments, authentic to the period, or you can also just have elements of your wardrobe that are kind of an homage to a period that you find interesting and aesthetic. This pattern came highly recommended in the history bounding group that I'm in. So I'm not going to take all of the pieces out because obviously the tissue paper pieces in a pattern are really delicate and it's a little windy today. So here's the company. They have a nice website, and I ordered these just a couple days ago. They came really fast in the mail. So I'm really interested in this cut right here. I'm gonna make some things for myself and for both of my daughters out of this. I'll be using, again, a curtain for me and some fabric from my mother for the girls for this. And I do have some artificial boning that will be going in these as well. I'll probably try and make a sewing video where I make this, that it fits sizes 8 through 20. Now my daughters are both smaller than a size 8, so I will have to cut down the pattern, but I'm a size 12, so, well, 10 on top and 12 on the bottom. So that is nice that this has quite a range of sizes. I believe this pattern was on sale. I want to say I spent $14 including shipping. So that gives you an idea. That's quite expensive, but if I make a lot of these out of it, then I feel like I get my money's worth. And again, if I need a healthy distraction or healthy entertainment, sewing a productive, useful garment that myself and my kids will wear feels like a good use of resources. Now the second pattern is from a company whose designs I absolutely admire. It's called Folkwear. Now I heard about this company through a Instagram that I really, really love. I love her aesthetic. I love everything about her clothes. I'll link to it. She actually just stopped Instagramming this past week, but I really love her aesthetic, and maybe it'll be an inspiration to you. But she kind of clued me in on this company because she uses their sewing patterns. So Folkwear is in Fairview, North Carolina. And let me see what they sent. Really like the compostable mailer, which I actually will probably use as fire starter. Love it when folks use recycled paper and then non-plastic mailers so that you can return it to the earth. So let's see what this one is. I have looked at this pattern over and over and over for months and months and thought about buying it. And finally, I decided that I'm going to make one of these for me as kind of the first run to see how the pattern goes. But my real goal is to make one of these for my daughter who turns 19 in January. And this is 100% her aesthetic. And I have thrifted fabric that will work for this. So I thought this is going to make a great birthday gift for her and something that she'll wear a lot. So this is the Bolivian milkmaid jacket. This cut right here is the one I'm looking at. The big poofy kind of Garibaldi sleeves, the short waist, and it buttons with hooks and eyes or buttons up the front. This also comes in sizes 8 to 22, so I'll have to cut it down for Ruth because she is like a size 4. But for me, it'll work great. And I would err on the side of getting bigger patterns and cutting down the patterns after making a mock-up versus buying them too small and having to size up a pattern. I feel like that's a lot trickier for me personally. So these patterns are really comprehensive. It comes with 3 styles, and I'll link to their Instagram for folkwear so you can see the finished garment. But that's the Bolivian milkmaid jacket. I feel like this is a really, really cool pattern. Oh, and this was on sale as well. They had a bunch of things on sale right now. So I don't think I spent that much. I want to say I spent like $8 for the pattern, maybe $9. So thanks for watching today. I hope that you feel empowered and maybe inspired to take up sewing and to try and do more of it, even if it's just basic mending or quilting or whole garment construction. I will definitely be showcasing some of the sewing for these 2 projects in future videos. So stay safe and stay well, and I will be back next Friday. Actually, I'm going to be trying to upload a bonus video here every week if I can. So we'll see if I can keep up with it. I have a lot going on in my personal life. You know, homeschooling 4 kids and taking care of my dad and just general things of life. It's really, really hectic. But if I can, I'm going to try and upload 2 videos a week here for a while. So fingers crossed for that. If you're interested in supporting this channel, please click subscribe and please just watch all the videos. That's the best way you can support these, support my work here, because these videos are not monetized at this point in time. I think I need about 2,000 more view hours before I get to monetization. So you can also check out my Patreon down in the description, and I'll be back next week. Thanks.